Hello and welcome to a love code tutorial. I'm going to be playing you an excerpt from Conversation with God about the evolution of a wrathful God, and then I'm going to talk a bit about my theory on it.
In an earlier part of your history, you lived on this planet in a matriarchal society. Then there was a shift, and the patriarchy emerged. When you made that shift, you moved away from expressing your emotions. You labeled it weak to do so. It was during this period that males also invented the devil, and the masculine god. Satan was essentially a male invention. Ultimately, all of society went along with it, but the turning away from emotions, and the invention of an evil one, was all part of a male rebellion against the matriarchy, a period during which women ruled over everything from their emotions. They held all governmental posts, all religious positions of power, all places of influence in commerce, science, academia, healing. Men had to justify their existence, for they had very little importance beyond their ability to fertilize female eggs and move heavy objects. They were very much like worker ants and bees. They did the heavy physical labor, and made sure that children were produced and protected. What men had to do to gain control during the matriarchal period was not to convince women that men ought to be given more power over their lives, but to convince other men. Life was, after all, going smoothly, and there were worse ways men could have to get through the day than simply doing some physical work to make themselves valued, and then have sex. So it was not easy for men who were powerless, to convince other powerless men to seek power. Until they discovered fear. Fear was the one thing women hadn't counted on. LT began, this fear, with seeds of doubt, sown by the most disgruntled among the males. What if the women were wrong? They asked. What if their way of running the world wasn't the best? What if it was, in fact, leading whole society, all of the race, into sure and certain annihilation? This is something many men could not imagine. After all, didn't women have a direct line to the goddess? Were they not, in fact, exact physical replicas of the goddess? And was not the goddess good? The teaching was so powerful, so pervasive, that men had no choice but to invent a devil, a Satan, to counteract the unlimited goodness of the Great Mother imagined and worshipped by the people of the matriarchy. The one thing all of their society understood was the theory of the rotten apple. Even the women saw and knew from their experience that some children simply turned out bad, no matter what they did. Especially, as everybody knew, the boy children, who just could not be controlled. So a myth was created. One day, the myth went, the Great Mother, the goddess of goddesses, brought forth a child who turned out to be not good. No matter what the mother tried, the child would not be good. Finally, he struggled with his mother for her very throne. This was too much, even for a loving, forgiving mother. The boy was banished forever but continued to show up in clever disguises and clever costumes, sometimes even posing as the Great Mother herself. This myth laid the basis for men to ask, how do we know the goddess we worship is a goddess at all? It could be the bad child, now grown up and wanting to fool us. By this device, men got other men to worry, then to be angry that women weren't taking their worries seriously, then to rebel. The being you now call Satan was thus created. It was not difficult to create a myth about a bad child, and not difficult, either, to convince even the women of the clan of the possibility of the existence of such a creature. It was also not difficult getting anyone to accept that the bad child was male. Weren't males the inferior gender? This device was used to set up a mythological problem. If the bad child was male, if the evil one was masculine, who would there be to overpower him? Surely, not a feminine goddess. For, said the men cleverly, when it came to matters of wisdom and insight, of clarity and compassion, of planning and thinking, no one doubted feminine superiority. Yet in matters of brute strength, was not a male needed? Previously in goddess mythology, males were merely consorts, companions to the female who acted as servants and fulfilled their robust desire for lustful celebration of their goddess magnificence. But now a male was needed who could do more, a male who could also protect the goddess and defeat the enemy. This transformation did not occur overnight, but across many years. Gradually, very gradually, societies began seeing the male consort as also the male protector in their spiritual mythologies, for now that there was someone to protect the goddess from, such a protector was clearly needed. It was not a major leap from male as protector to male as equal partner, now standing alongside the goddess. The male god was created, and, for a while, gods and goddesses ruled mythology together. Then, again gradually, gods were given larger roles. The need for protection, for strength, began to supplant the need for wisdom and love. A new kind of love was born in these mythologies. A love which protects with brute force. But it was a love which also covets what it protects, which was jealous of its goddesses, which now did not simply serve their feminine lusts, but fought and died for them. Myths began to emerge of gods of enormous power, quarreling over, fighting for, goddesses of speakable beauty. And so was born the jealous god. It wasn't long before the jealousy of the gods extended not only to the goddesses but to all creations in all realms. We had better love him, these jealous gods demanded, and no other god or else. Since males were the most powerful species, and gods were the most powerful of the males, there seemed little room for argument with this new mythology. Stories of those who did argue, and lost, began to emerge. The god of wrath was born. Soon, the whole idea of deity was subverted. Instead of being the source of all love, it became the source of all fear. The smile of the amused goddess, experiencing limitless love and gently submitting to the laws of nature, was replaced by the stern countenance of the not-so-amused god, proclaiming power over the laws of nature, and forevermore limiting love. This is the god you worship today, and that's how you got where you are now.
So, my theory now on this is that, first of all, we lived in a matriarchal society where we valued thought as the most important thing in solving day-to-day problems. And then a shift happened, and we went towards deed, as deed is the most important thing to physically protect. More important, as there's a now that there's a like an enemy that needs a physical enemy that needs physically defeating or fending from. So that's how it's worked so far. But now both of these both of these models create inequality. In the one case matriarchy, and in the other case patriarchy. And that's from valuing thought and then valuing deed, most of all. But my theory is that if we value word most of all, then we can have equality. So that's the love code, and this is the love code diagram. So yeah, thank you for the F to watch. Please like and comment and subscribe.